the most, maybe not so much fleshed out version of the Joker we got up until then, because, if you're into the comic books like that, which I'm not that there's anything wrong being in the comic books, but I wish I was more well versed into the comic book realm of things, especially Joker's background, which he has none per se, like a defined origin story. That on the big screen with the Dark Knight, at least, was the best version we got of him. And of course, rest in peace to Heath Ledger, which played arguably the best version of Joker till now, which, 2019, Joker comes out. They'll say Joaquin Phoenix killed it, no pun intended, as Joker himself. Debatable whether he is the best version of it. Some will throw it back to 1989 with Batman, the OG one. We got on the big screen like that with, Jack Nicholson killing it as Joker. And then, I forget his name right now, the one that did the voice of the Joker for so long in the animated series. I forget his name. I'm not trying to disrespect or nothing. The name slips my memory right now. But I do remember, funny enough, not funny that it's funny, but oddly enough, to say, that whole thing that happened when The Dark Knight Rises came out, and there was that one kid that convinced himself he was the Joker based off The Dark Knight, and feeling that he was cool and kind of like sympathized with him so much that he unfortunately shot some folks. I don't remember the story, to be honest. It was so long ago, over 10 years ago, if he actually shot people and killed them and or just shot up the theater. But yeah, that stigma comes along with The Dark Knight Rises. Now we fast forward to 2019, where it's even more, solely about the Joker this time. There is Batman in this movie, aka Bruce Wayne, as a child, so not even like grown-up Bruce Wayne, midnighting as Batman in his free time and beating the shit out of criminals and eventually working his way up to Joker just to, blue ball Gotham into thinking that he's going to detain and or stop Joker at any point. But really, it's like his playmate. Like, he'll let Joker do just enough crime and get into enough trouble before he says, slap on the wrist, I'm going to stop you, choke me harder, daddy, and let him go and never kill him, right? Even though Joker's the one guy of, his many villains, his many ops, that should be able to provoke Batman enough to want to kill him at some point, just like it's, I think the whole city, the whole world at this point, the DCU would co-sign Batman eventually killing Joker with his bare hands, as he did in that one graphic novel, The Killing Joke, which, great graphic novel, not so great animated big screen feature, which I was kind of saddened by. But, that's what happens. I went to go see it in the theaters, left kind of like, what did I just watch? Why did I sit myself through that shit the whole time? It happens. But we fast forward to 2019 Joker. The end result with a lot of folks, let me not say a lot of folks, but a lot of certain individuals, resonated a little too much with them. And I get it, because sometimes you just need someone to talk to or lend a helping hand or lend a helping ear, an ear willing to listen to what you got going on, what's bothering you like that and everything. It's not going to solve everything, but, unfortunately this movie did tap into a lot of people's, feelings on the inside, how they feel about society, if they can't interact with women, if they lack the social skills to kind of say, hey, carry a simple conversation. What's going on? Let's break the ice. Let's make friends. Let's be friendly. What's going on with the world? Hey, it sucks, right? Well, you think the same way? Well, let's be friends, chit chat, hang out, take a load off, pause, of course, by just talking about what pisses us off and, so that no one gets harmed as a result of we bottle it up so much that one day, the top just pops off and we're just fucking committing massacres, or like in a movie, of course, he did so much harm because of the whole life he lived, as far as, this is one interpretation of the backstory of Joker, of course. I mean to say that, let me clarify with that too. So, as per the comics, as per movies, the Joker has no defined origin tale, which I think really adds to his aura as like the epitome of villains for Batman, or his like, the yin to his yang pretty much. I forget how it goes, black, white, which one's good, which one's bad. Forgive me for that. Please don't cancel me for that, for misappropriating Asian culture, but you know what I mean. it was a really good film, for me at least. The way it was done, the way it was shot, visually very good looking film. Graphic material, it earns its R. I don't want to say it's disgusting or overly graphic. You know, when he kills people, it is like some parts are like, whoa. Like, there was that initial audience shock, initial reaction they would get. You know, on the big screen, you see a lot of blood splattering all over the place, especially when he stabs a guy to death, stabs his neck, stabs his eye, and then just starts bashing his head into a wall repeatedly until like just a spackling of blood covering that wall, which leads into a very funny joke afterwards too. We'll touch on that later. But there's enough violence to merit the R rating. It wasn't going to get a PG-13. Come on, because then they would have been fucking with us emotionally to give us a Joker movie based on the Joker, but then it's PG-13, you know. We got what we deserved, no pun intended, with the R rating. And I guess more than what we would have expected, because also this is a standalone film, not directly related to the rest of the DCU universe, whatever it's called, the rest of the DC movies, basically, right? So this is a standalone Joker film. He'll probably never meet the likes of, what's his name, Batman now? Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson's Batman. They'll never mingle and interact, because if you know from Joker 2, despite how much people hated that one, and I will be doing a review for Joker 2 as well, they'll never ever meet, basically. That's confirmed and reaffirmed. But right now we're talking about Joker 1 solely, 2019 release. So don't mind me while I deep dive into the film itself, because, again, I really did like this film a lot. I'll make it obvious with the rest of this episode, obviously. And don't forget to, before we jump into it, YouTube, Twitch, @AhhFuGGiT is a tag for the channel right here. I appreciate you following, subbing, whatever you got to do. It's free, of course. Please don't think I'm going to charge you anything at all for free content otherwise. Also, the audio version available wherever you get your podcast from, who this been watching, referring to, of course, and or on the socials, the same tag as for YouTube and Twitch, @AhhFuGGiT. Follow me on TikTok, the Instagram, the Threads, the Twitter, no Snapchat, because Snapchat got way too freaky on some Joker level shit for me, of all people. I don't show feet. I never show nothing beneath my neck and nothing like that to be like meriting the kind of DMs or solicitations I gotten on Snapchat, of all places. So evil people out there. Well, now I wouldn't say evil, just like, you know, I don't know how the fuck you're into me, of all people. Basically, we'll leave it at that with the Snapchat shit. Back to Joker 2019. All right, so it opens up. All right, so the basic synopsis, the backstory, the origins as interpreted by Todd Phillips on the big screen for this version of the Joker origin backstory. So it leads to, you know, Joker having a messed up upbringing, a really messed up upbringing. The more details we get divulged to us as the movie goes on and proceeds, leading to why and the part where a lot of people feel validated and being able to co-sign and let's say identify, quote unquote, with the Joker, or Arthur Fleck in this case, with the world being messed up, his immediate surroundings being very fucked up, and as far as Gotham's concerned. And I do appreciate that level at where he's at as a part of Gotham society would probably be going through that in general, because we tend to think of, I'd say Batman's one of my top 3 heroes of all time, comic book heroes of all time. And yes, he is the do-gooder. He is the one that'll prevail for the sake of justice and keeping the sanity, you know, keeping the crime level down in Gotham. And while we envision him beating up criminals, you know, fucking up Joker to the point where he's almost dead, but he won't kill him because that's his one rule. He won't kill nobody. And or Bane and or Clayface, whoever you can imagine. You also got to imagine or envision the little man, per se. The common folk of Gotham, the Gothamites, which he does defend and, you know, tries to keep safe and make sure none of them die on his watch. But then what about the ones really struggling, broke, going through the system, you know, going through, what do you call that shit? Like, Medicaid's applicable to everybody, I think. It's like not exclusive to New York here, nothing like that. It's like state, countrywide and all that. But like those on, you know, government assistance, Medicaid, you know, that are on the meds, that are like a threat to themselves and society potentially, you know, just so long as they have that one bad day which is the case here with Arthur Fleck. It's a lot to take in from that aspect, because you're looking from the outside, not so much from the outside in, but like from the bottom up, to see like Batman is the guy. You would have to assume Batman is a guy that has an unlimited budget, because he's got that fancy looking ass costume. He's got all the gadgets and the trinkets that go with it, the fucking Batmobile, the Bat, private jet that flies at hyperspeed throughout Gotham. So, the TSA's got major issues with Batman, but they can never catch him. So, of course, they can never pin nothing on him, basically. It sucks to be poor in Gotham, I would think, because not only are you subjected to being poor and on government assistance, but then you're getting jumped, you're getting robbed, and if you got absolutely nothing on you, like, oh, you're too poor to rob, well, bang, you get shot dead, or stab, shank. Or worse, if you're a criminal, get caught by Batman, you get tossed in the fucking... No, Arkham Asylum is the one for the criminals and the mentally whatever the fuck. What's the name of the fucking the jail in Gotham? Blackwell? I forget right now, but there's definitely a jail or a prison, right? So imagine being broke and being detained. What's worse, to be poor and broke in Gotham, or to be a criminal caught by Batman and beat almost to death and crippled and not even being able to find a job when you reform yourself straight out of prison and shit, and be like, Batman taught me a thing or two by breaking a bone or two, so now I'm going to set my life straight. But then, oh shit, Gotham's so broke, and then the rich are so rich and elite, and up here where I can't even reach them, I can't reform my life or even get a job flipping burgers no more in Gotham. Goddamn. Batman should have killed me, goddammit. I should have been the one exception to the fucking rule that he has implied upon himself. But as Batman talk, we don't get no Batman, of course, in Joker. We never will. As I mentioned, this is a standalone kind of thing, and Todd Phillips insisted on that. Joaquin Phoenix probably insisted on that too. But as we move along now, okay, so here's the meat and potatoes of it all. Joker, right? 2019. So forgive me in advance, I made a lot of notes, but because, again, I enjoy this movie a lot, I don't want to skip over any potential details. So it opens up, and you can't help but feel bad for Arthur, but it does add to my question I've been having about Joker and or Arthur Fleck, in this case, the one version of Joker, because then there's, I forget the other names Joker had that might have led to the creation of Joker, the birth of Joker, whatever, but this Joker, Arthur Fleck, I mean to say, the one question I've had for years now, which is, why are we afraid of clowns at all? Because in this case, Arthur comes off as inoffensive, and the way... I guess it helps that Joaquin Phoenix is so painfully skinny as he got for this role. Who's he going to hurt? Who's he going to harm? At least you think that, right? So it makes him an easy target for the kids. As the film opens up, there's the kids. If you've watched the movie, the scene where he's getting chased down the street by kids, one of them takes his fucking sign that he's like flipping in the streets like that. They take it from him. He chases after them. They lead him into an alley. He gets fucked up pretty easily. It is a lot of kids. I'll give him that much. Easy defeat, literally, because he got kicked, into a fucking a pulp, pretty much. Which then leads into another scene where immediately you can't help but feel bad for Joker / Arthur Fleck, is when he's on the bus, presumably back home after getting beat up by some kids randomly in the street, is he's engaging with a child sitting in front of him on the bus back home, which happens to be a black kid. We're not here to talk about color, but I'm just making the point that it's a black kid. So, black kid with black mother right next to him, I can't define what gender the child was. He's doing his best, simple job. Kids are little, they're easily entertained by just like making silly faces and goofy sounds, right? He's doing that. The mother's like bothered by it, like leave my kid alone, whatever. Then he starts laughing because that's his condition. He'll nonstop laugh if he's like perturbed, bothered, nervous, I guess angry too. And he has to carry a card around with him to like give out to people to, tell them that I have a condition where I laugh like a fucking maniac. Please excuse me, forgive me, da-da-da-da. Probably just hating on his ass because he's skinny and white and looks like he's probably broken, and she is. At least she probably gets some sort of a tax break because she has a kid, a dependent to claim. Arthur's got no pussy, so of course he's got no dependence, basically. So what are you going to do there, right? But then again, I would think at least, having grown up, using the MTA, the New York City Transit public system and shit, buses and or trains, better yet said, if you see someone down that bad on their luck and they're white and taking the fucking bus, I think they're more trustworthy than anybody there. They're not going to really cause no harm unless they're like dirty and like scratching themselves a lot, probably junky, but he's not doing any of that. He's minding his own business. The kid turned around, made a face at him, and he's doing the, I think the correct thing to do, like a child, a baby engages with you, you make a silly face back to like, just show you mean no harm to the child. You're just like, cute, a kid. Let me make some faces, let me make some noise, make their day pretty much. No need to be an asshole to a baby, right? He finally gets back home just in time to tune in with his mother, Penny, to tune in to his favorite show, a late night show, presumably hosted by Robert De Niro, or in this case, a.k.a. Murray Franklin. Fantasizes about being on the show. He has an immediate dream while watching the show itself as being an audience member, getting called out directly by Murray Franklin to join him on stage. Calls him like, I wish I would have had a kid like you. You would have been so great and shit. Pretty much fantasizing like his hero, his idol, would immediately embrace him upon initial contact with him. Which, it's a sweet thing to see. All he really wants is to be loved and or accepted by, it seems like just anybody at this point. Not so much everybody, but anybody. Because it's basically him and his mom. His mom's clearly got issues. She's dependent on the state and or Gotham to like get the bare minimum to like get by on a daily. They're both medicated. They both got their own issues going on. So it seems like, I'm not saying that happens in real life, but it seems like whatever mental issues she might have had herself didn't necessarily get inherited to him, but more like he got his own because she already, was a little cuckoo herself. But we'll find out later on that he had his own issues to deal with, growing up the way he did. So he's just imagining himself with Murray, chilling, being cool with him, and just, it's a little sad to reflect on now, having watched that. At the end of the day, at the very core of the issue, he just wants to be accepted, it seems like, by just anybody that'll pay enough attention to him, or anybody he sees as a hero, or just wants to embrace like that. When he gets back to work, I guess to report, what had happened, Randall found out already, a coworker, him, big, fat, tall, bald guy, that hands him a gun after seeing the bruise on him and hands him a free gun, of all things, for his own safety, so it doesn't happen to him again. He gets called into the office by his boss at the Clowns for Hire agency, whatever, and he proceeds to tell him, Arthur, I like you, but you keep fucking up. We got another complaint about you. This time, as we mentioned, the sign got damaged, lost, whatever happened. Arthur tries to tell him he got beat up by some kids. He got jumped for his fucking sign, of all things, and humiliated on top of that. But now the sign, now damaged and lost, has to get taken out of his paycheck, if he even makes money like that to begin with. And the guy keeps talking. The sound's getting drowned out as Arthur just makes this, he locks into this face, which is just you would think he was going into a stroke the way he looks on screen pretty much, but the sound is drowning out. He can't really focus on nothing besides another person fuck with me on top of being fucked with by a group of kids, of all things already. And it wasn't my fault, but I'm being blamed like it was my fault. And he's just standing there awkwardly smiling at his boss. He has nothing left to do but do that, right? This leads into one of my favorite parts of the movie, and I will be guilty and fully admit, raise your hand if you are guilty like me, of being a straight man so much that I see a pretty female and I'm locked in, even in a movie like Joker, because we get treated not just any woman, but I'd say an underrated beauty, as well as a talent, shout outs to her, in real life, Zazie Beetz. I forget her fucking name in the movie. What do you want me to do? I can't pay that much attention. I'm too busy fucking drooling at the beauty of Zazie Beetz. She's his neighbor. She's in the elevator with him, with her daughter. And now's where the movie starts to get a little fuzzy as far as is this IRL shit in real life, or is this Arthur imagining the kind of world he'd love to live in right now? So reimagining shit, and it's basically him and her in the elevator. She's making jokes with him, and at some point just makes a finger gun under her chin, and no, he did that, my fault. I think she did the finger gun to her head and just pretends to blow her brains out because, they go through enough day in, day out, living in the neighborhood they live in Gotham. And just the everydays, having to hear the child, yapping her ass off. And she'd rather be a, single ready to mingle instead of a single mother with a child. I'm assuming, I don't know. I'm not saying the kid's that bad, but she makes it seem like it's that bad. And I'm sure parents out there raising kids young enough, not saying they're bad, but they can be annoying or enough of a headache. I'm sure you wanted to blow your brains out at the end of just one day, let alone multiple days as long as these kids live, right? We were trying to raise the youth of tomorrow, basically. We then find out that Mom, or Penny in this case, Penny Fleck, you know how you flick a penny, Penny Flick, whatever. Penny Fleck is obsessed with Thomas Wayne, a.k.a. Bruce Wayne's daddy, which, of course, in every interpretation of Batman, or anytime Batman's brought up, Batman Origins, all right, how are we going to flesh out the scene where we pop both his parents? Not just him, but him and her, mom and dad, boom, 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 in Crime Alley, right? That's going to happen, of course, later on. I didn't spoil nothing with that, and also, if you haven't watched Joker yet, you've had 6 years to do so don't fucking blame me. But Mom is obsessed with Thomas Wayne. Apparently, we learn later on she'd worked there as part of staff, I don't know, of cleaning or like a servant. Not a servant. I mean to say like, what do you call him? Not Alfred. He was the butler. Maid, I guess. Whatever. She used to work with him, and she's so fixated on him anytime he shows up on TV. This time around, Thomas Wayne is potentially running for mayor of Gotham because he feels like he's the one that could clean up the streets and make the poor people somewhat rich, or at least bring them into like middle class, pretty much. Arthur makes a joke about Thomas, and it's like she can't see the vision or embody him as a comedian, which Arthur's aspiring to be. And she shits on him by saying, quote, I mean, don't you have to be funny to be a comedian? Because I guess he made an off remark. I don't remember right now. Later on, Arthur is dancing in the apartment in his underwear, and we used to call him back when a wife beater and or a guinea tee or a tank top, now appropriately referred to as. Just for context, of course, he's dancing in that shit. He's got his little gun that Randall gave him, and by mistake, he lets it off. He shoots his wall. He's in the projects, of course. So, the neighbors are a fuss briefly, but then they go back, oh, yeah, right, we're in Gotham / the Bronx where it was filmed. So it's like, oh, yeah, that's everyday shit, whatever. It's just that late at night, fuck it. Mom is freaking out. Artie, what was that? And it was kind of funny, his response. He's like, oh, I was watching an old war movie, Mom, sorry. And just turns up the TV and shit. Then the following day or sometime later, he starts following Zazie Beetz on her way to work without revealing himself, obviously, because in his head, they're a thing. Or at least he wants it to be, because, again, we're still like kind of in that gray area of whether they are or they aren't. And it seems like they might be, or at least they might be cool. Because, again, later on we find out that it's all in his head, basically, as a lot of it is, basically. After following her to work, he sits in on a comedy show that's, like, I guess, conveniently enough done in the afternoon because it was still daylight when he went to go follow her to work. It makes a lot of useful notes, which, I had to pause the movie and actually, see what he was writing the whole time. Because when I watch in theaters, obviously you don't get enough time to, like, capture all that little detail. But now, since it's been on, DVD and fucking HBO Max, streaming now, of course, he makes little notes such as work the crowd, which obvious, dress nice but casual, which, it could be up to interpretation as far as comedians. I respect a comedian that can go up there and, like, plain Jane of an outfit and like still make us laugh, whatever. That's me. Eye contact, which is vital in conversations you carry throughout your everyday adult life. And then he makes a note because the guy, doing his bit up there has slick back hair. So he's like slick hair, which he has enough of. I can't speak on that because I'm fucking bald. I miss having a full head of hair like that, but I'm not going to use that as a crutch to be like, oh, woe is me, I'm bald in society right now. It's 2025. If I really feel that down bad, I could always just go to Turkey and just, worry about the repercussions after the fact. $6,000 later, basically. I think that's what it costs. Whatever. He makes those notes. Very interesting. It did help, I think, because he did actually come up with some decent little jokes he wrote afterwards, which I did write down the following 3, which, they go from kind of, okay, that's not bad, to like, all right, Dad, just fucking Change the oil already in the fucking station wagon. Shut the fuck up otherwise. So the first one that he wrote down that I made note of was, why did the old guy like having insomnia? Because he didn't have to sleep with his wife. Which, I'll admit, that's a good one. I wouldn't say like Rodney Dangerfield-esque level of genius, but that's a good one. That's a nice little icebreaker. At the bar, you know, post up next to a little baddie and everything. You like just to break the ice. Hey, by the way, why the old guy like having insomnia? She might be like, insomnia is a pretty serious medical condition. It's nothing to laugh at, but I'll hear him out. What? It's like because he didn't have to sleep with his wife. I like it. I respect it. I give that out of a 10 like a 6.5. I'm feeling in a good mood. The next one he wrote down was, why are poor people always confused? Because they don't make any sense. So instead of sense, like logically speaking, sense, C-E-N-T-S, sense as in, you know, physical currency that no one's been using for years right now. So that one's like, you know, whatever. You got to think about it for a quick second and you realize like, oh yeah, okay, well, you know, whatever. Back to the drawing board, back to the fucking notepad, right? And then the last one was, what did the crazy guy say to the straitjacket? It's a little, you know, too deep of a reference. If you've never been in a straitjacket, then you probably won't know. Like I never have been. If you've never been, well, good for you too. That means you're not insane. Loosen up a bit, which I get it. It's direct to the point. Makes sense when you think about it, but then you got to think about it a little bit. It's like, okay, well, you know, all right. Dad joke, the epitome of basically, but not bad for his first time around. It was like an aspiring comedian as Arthur Fleck is in Joker 2019 release. But there is a little bit of truth, which is, you know, kind of brings it back to Arthur's reality, which is at the very bottom, besides the jokes he does write, the worst part about having a mental illness is people expect you to behave like you don't, which, you know, shout out to those dealing with mental illnesses or things of the sorts, whatever the magnitude, however long it's been and everything too. Not to get so serious or somber, but it's like, you know, you are expected to act like absolutely nothing's bothering you or nothing's wrong with you to be accepted in society as per its norms. But leave that for another time. That's for a whole nother episode, if anything, we ever touch on that. So now, the relationship in his head that exists between him and Zazie, again, I forget her name in the movie, of course, is getting even more, where are the lines start to get blurred? Where are we supposed to believe this is actually happening? Or is this just like make-believe in his head? Because now he's imagining that she did catch him following her at work when he goes to see her, I think in the hallway again or something like that. And she likes it. She accepts it. And then they have a whole little convo. He makes a little fucking dad joke-esque type of thing, and she comments, "You're so funny, Arthur," which no one speaks like that in real life, let alone women trying to be like, you know, let me flirt a little bit, let me make it obvious for, you know, Captain Obvious over here kind of thing. It's a little too on the nose, as they say. So now we start on the slow downward spiral of Arthur and anything he's got going on for him whatsoever. He's hired to do a gig at the hospital, at the children's hospital, to be a clown. Obviously, that's what he loves doing so much. Where, stupidly enough, he's got the gun on him that Randall gave to him to carry just for his safety. Apparently, you need to be safe while going to visit some children in the hospital. But okay, that was his logic. While he's dancing and singing along to the song they're playing, the shit slips out of his fucking leg. It drops into the floor. It's like a whole little funny bit, actually, the way like he can't grab it. I don't know if it was done on purpose or if it was just like coincidental, like maybe Joaquin Phoenix is that clumsy, I guess. He couldn't grab the gun immediately, or he played it up being, you know, like a pretty good fucking solid actor that he is. It's really funny the way he tries to scramble to grab the gun. So then, of course, he cuts a payphone where he's getting yelled at by his boss. "You fucking piece of shit. What's the fucking matter with you? Goddammit. How could you? You brought a gun to a fucking children's hospital, so you're fucking fired. I'm sorry, Artie. I gotta do this to you." So it's gotta absolutely suck to have just been fired over the phone on top of all things, not even get chewed out in person or face to face like most bosses would enjoy doing. But you're sent back home, on the train back home, long train ride back home, bus ride back home after being fired. That must suck, because it's implied, I guess, it's like the 70s or 80s, the time frame we're in Joker, where, you know, you don't have like your phone on hand to look through, I don't know, Craigslist, if that's a thing anymore, to look for jobs like that. But back then, you had to look through the classified ads in the paper the following morning to see who's hiring for when, if they'll take you at all, based on whatever experience or no experience you have as a fucking failed clown of all things. That's probably his mindset for the following morning, you know, over a cup of coffee and a couple of pills he's been, you know, prescribed to take, because, you know, a little, according to the city and state of Gotham. But it must really suck to take that long train ride back home, late at night, all alone in the train car. Probably smells like piss and shit and whatever bodily functions they leave there behind as evidence for Batman in Gotham. But on top of that, now he's joined by 3 white, drunk Wall Street bros. Those types, you know what I'm talking about, like the financial bros. And not to dwell on the fact that they're white, but they happen to be white. And, you know, Wall Street bros like that. They're there with another woman sitting all by herself. She's getting harassed by them. Not so much harassed like they're trying to fuck or like trying to, you know, do whatever to her, but like more, they're just being bros, they're drunk, they're having fun, you know, bothering her. Then he happens to laugh because he's like bothered by the situation, but he's got his condition, so he's just laughing because like it bothers him. And they take it as they're laughing, he's laughing at them by not being able to convince the girl to like play along with this stupid little thing of like, hey, why don't you take a French fry? Why don't you take a French fry kind of thing? So he started harassing him. That leads to him getting beat up by the financial bros. He still got the piece on him though, without them knowing that. So as they're like flinging his blag around and leaving him, you know, beat up on the floor of a fucking train. On top of that, he pulls out the piece, bang, 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 shoots 2 of them dead. One of them shot in the back of the leg. He's like dragging his dead foot up the staircase off as soon as he gets off the train. Arthur gives chase, shoots him in the fucking back, leaves him dead on the staircase for the world to see. Instead of the other 2 that got bodied, at least on the train, on an empty train where no one's going to probably see them till the morning time. After he commits the act of murder 3 times in succession, he starts running from the train to the nearest park, through the projects, through the project. It seems like the basketball court bathroom nearby, which I wouldn't fucking touch that place at all, or trust that place at all. But he's in there, he runs in there, he's like just huffing and puffing and trying to come to the realization what he's just done finally. Like, did he go off the deep end? Did he just have a bad enough day like that? Which he really did have a bad day. But then we start hearing the that one piece of music that plays throughout the movie for him, whenever he kind of feels like he's like, I want to say, I always interpret it as like in his zone, like his zen kind of thing. He starts like dancing along to it. It's only playing in his head, of course, in a pissy fucking dark project bathroom. And he's dancing along to it to kind of, I guess, maybe bring himself back to his center after having done, you know, so much shit at the moment. It popped off like that. After he's done dancing with himself, of course, with the music in his head, in his mind, now it's really apparent, it's got to be at this point after multiple times watching this thing, he runs back to where he lives and starts knocking on Zazie Beet's door. And as soon as she opens immediately after like the 3rd knock, so it's like she was waiting for him almost, he snatches her up and starts kissing her. And it's a very deep, passionate, I'm sure a lot of tongue action involved kiss, which, you know, that'd be a perk for me. Incentive enough for me to be in a movie with Zazie Beetz. Like, oh, I got the French tongue kisser, even if it's like 2 seconds and they cut away right away. I'm fine with that. Oh, they cut out my scene where I'm making out with fucking Zazie Beetz. That's fine. Can I still practice at least in the trailer? I'm kidding, of course. Arthur then shows up to his place of employment, former at least place of employment, and he's got a hand in his fucking clown costume, the wig and all the shit. He's got to empty out his locker. The guys are around him, you know, asking him, well, what the fuck's wrong with you bringing a gun to a kid's hospital like that? Shout out to Brian Callen, which, you know, may be divisive depending on, you know, if you like his comedy or not. I like him. I've always liked him. I still think he's hilarious. Significant enough moment there, like, is the gun a part of your bit now, Arthur? If you start bombing, you'll just shoot yourself on stage kind of thing, which was a good joke. I probably butchered it right now, but it was pretty funny. He starts talking out loud and admits to, I did have the gun, but Randall gave it to me. Randall gets upset because he's like, well, you fucking blowing up the spot. You're telling me I got illegal guns and shit like that. I'm handing out like that, like fucking free candy to kids on the street and shit. But of course, at this point now, Arthur's like pretty much locked in the like not give a fuck no more mode. So he blurts that out loud as he walks away. He leaves. He comes back. Oh wait, I forgot the punch out, and he starts punching the shit out of the fucking the punch in punch out clock they got there, which, as far as I read, that was improv. So shout out to Joaquin for having the genius enough to like come back and improv that whole part himself, which I'm sure if he did, his hand was really fucking hurting after punching the shit out of that thing, because he's really like fucking wailing on that thing. But he's so frail and skinny, more damage to his own hand, but beyond the knuckle, beyond the wrist, probably his whole arm was like throbbing afterwards. Shout out to him for doing that. That was a beautiful little fucking touch. It's still so funny because he's like just really wailing at it, like throwing his whole body into it right there. That cuts to the news, where the following day, presumably, Thomas Wayne's on the news talking about he's going to run for mayor and making it official now because he wants to bring justice to the employees of his, the three Wall Street bros, which turned out to be, I forget the term again, but the three guys that got bodied on the train, they were Wayne Enterprises employees. So he's worried about the safety concerned about the safety of the citizens of Gotham. So he's the one that could basically bring Gotham back to safety, so long as the people vote him in as mayor. Because he says, oh, it was a clown that did it, or people reported that they cited a clown at the scene of the crime. So he takes advantage, Thomas Wayne, and says, oh, on the news, oh, anyone out there might as well be a clown to dress up as a clown to commit these crimes because they're a pussy, they're a phony, they're a fake, they're a stand, they're a bitch ass, and the mama's a hoe, basically. He takes all those liberties on the fucking news to say that. Not as dirty as I said it, but basically he was saying that. And that don't hate him because he happens to be rich and rich people exist, basically. So he's on that time. You know, I'll talk to the people beneath me at the very bottom base level and shit, acknowledge their existence every so often while I'm on the clock. When I'm off the clock, I'm too busy being rich to bother with any of you fucking assholes. Which, of course, is Thomas Wayne. Never was that the case with Bruce, because Bruce was all about justice, aka Batman, of course, I'm referring to, and serving Gotham, putting Gotham above all else. You know, personal relationships, even though he gets the fuck, you know, what was her name? Not Raja. I was gonna say, he ain't trying to fucking be with Raja like that. He ain't trying to hit back shots on Raja. Talia. He gets to fuck Talia. He gets to fuck Catwoman. I think it's implied at some point he does tap Poison Ivy. Of course, he fucks Batgirl, but she's of age, not girl like underage, but Batgirl's like. I don't know why Batgirl was never Batwoman. Does that not sound as cool? Because I would think that too. It doesn't sound as cool as Batgirl. I don't know. Maybe they came up with that back in the 50s, where like it's kind of like we want to make a female character that's cool, but we don't want to fully acknowledge her existence or give her that much, you know, coolness. So we'll make her Batgirl instead of Batwoman. Then again, Batwoman doesn't sound so great. So maybe it was that. I don't know. But Batman's got the baddies tallied up as far as like the list of bodies he's accumulated thanks to Gotham being the, you know, overseer of Gotham like that. But yeah, Thomas is completely different. He's not corrupt. He's just more worried about being rich and his own interests versus the actual folks. But he's trying to convince the folks enough beneath his, you know, tax level to vote him in as mayor so he can make changes according to him, but then really not do nothing, but just have like something to add to his resume. Like, I'm rich and I bought myself the mayoral seat of Gotham, basically. That's what I got from it, at least. So when he checks in again now with his social worker, which she's basically there to ask every couple of weeks whenever he does see her, is, how you feeling? Are you employed? Are you off drugs? Are you having good thoughts, bad thoughts, etc., etc.? And has to review his notepad, I think, way earlier on in the movie. And he points out, oh, I wrote some jokes. Let me know what you think. And then I think she told him early on, like, yeah, they weren't funny at all. They were just kind of like dark and, you know, something's wrong with you. We know that, obviously. That's why you come to see me. But otherwise, stay away from the jokes, the alleged jokes you're telling and or writing. when she's going through the script that she's known to do with him at this point now, like getting through the basics, he starts to dwell on, well, all I ever have are negative thoughts. You don't fucking listen. You don't pay attention to what I'm telling you. You just fucking want to check me off the list as far as who you seen that day, who was scheduled to be seen, basically. And he goes on about, well, I said for my whole life, because he said it before, he has to repeat himself. I said for my whole life, I didn't know if I was ever really someone that existed, but now I do. Referring to, he doesn't say directly, but referring to what he did the night before, or a couple nights before, where he just bodied the fucking 3 financial bros. He feels like people are finally noticing him without knowing who he is, of course. Just all they know is that a guy in clown makeup did it, basically. She breaks the news to him, though, while he's droning on about that shit, that basically this is his last visit. The city is cutting their funding, so she gets less hours to work, which results in him getting the services cut and no more being able to, emotionally dump onto the social worker who could give a shit anyway when he does so. But he can't get access to meds no more, so he's like kind of just all not up in arms, but like more fixated on that, like, well, where am I gonna get help from? She's like, sorry bro, this is your last time, deuces, get the fuck out of here when you're done. And that cuts to him being backstage at, I guess, an open mic. I forget if they said the name of a club, a made-up club, of course. But he's ready to go on stage for his first ever spot at a comedy club. And of all guys and of all comics, which I happen to be a fan of, and I didn't know of him back when, I'm not ashamed to admit that, but I do know him now, and I just noticed that now, upon rewatching Joker, turns out it was Sam Morril, the guy that he was going to be following right on stage, which he said a very funny, which I still remember fondly, the joke, before I realized, oh shit, that's Sam Morril, because I recognized his voice this time watching it back. I was like, I know that voice. And then when the guy said, hey, give it up everybody for Sam Morril, hey, Sam Morril, told a really funny fucking parking joke. You know how, I don't want to butcher the joke. Basically, it was a really funny joke that apparently he's retelling now, which is good for him because that was a good joke. Why not fucking use it and abuse it if it's yours, more importantly? So shout out to Sam Morril, which is confusing, though, because he's getting referenced in the movie by his real name, Sam Morril, as the guy that's been on before Arthur Fleck. But this movie is set back in the 70s and or 80s ish, that kind of time frame. But does that mean Sam Morril existed and or is a time traveler that jumped back into the past to the 70s to tell jokes from then? He's been doing it for that long, kind of thing, or testing the waters for like, would this joke work in the 70s and the 80s, or should I leave it for the fucking modern day 2000s and 2020s and such? I don't know, but that was interesting. Though goes by his real name in the movie, which is his real name in IRL real life, but they didn't bother changing that up. So was it so we can get the credit, or was it maybe that in 2019 at least, I didn't know about Sam Morril like that, so I'm not gonna pretend I did at all, but I didn't know who Sam Morril was. I don't think he was on my radar, and I don't know if he was making noise like that yet. Forgive me if I'm wrong for assuming that, but that is interesting. Why would they let him go by his real name in the movie as a character and not give him a phony name? Did they think maybe he's not that famous so it won't matter if we just leave his real name in? Or I wonder what happened there. I don't know if he's ever explained that, but I'd love to find that out. Shout out to Sam Morril, though. He's fucking funny. Him and fucking Mark Norman doing We Might Be Drunk. That's been a Sunday staple for me. Every new episode they drop for a long time now. So shout outs to him. Arthur gets introduced to the stage. The best joke told by Arthur, the one he's able to actually, not even him, but the guy leading, introducing him to the stage, is able to get out about Arthur is, this guy says his mom said he was born to make people laugh. Okay, whatever that means, and that's the funniest joke they tell about Arthur, that gets told about Arthur, that Arthur's not even able to tell himself. It gets told about him because he's too busy choking and laughing with his condition on stage enough to get a joke out. And when he does, they're more like observations and or journal entries more than actual jokes he might have fleshed out or worked on. But in his imagination, which this is the freaky part, because he did actually do the bit, that stand-up bit he did, because later it's clipped and replayed on the Murray Franklin show where they make fun of him. We'll get to that later on. But that's also meshed in with his imagination, his mind playing tricks on him, basically, with Zazie Beetz in the audience watching him while he's doing that act. And then the sounds, his jokes get drowned out by the sounds of music, with him imagining that even though he stumbled with them first two lines he delivered, he's killing with the rest of the crowd afterwards, but we don't hear the material. So that's where it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. That's like him kind of revisioning the fucking memory in his mind to like kind of drown, to push down the fucking actual bomb he had on stage with that shit. And I love that part, because that's where, if anything, reality is at the crossroads with his interpretation of reality or his delusion, to see what's real or what's not anymore at this point. But they're kind of crossing streams at this point where you can still see where, okay, that was real, that wasn't, and then what transitions into what exactly. Cut back to Arthur at home. He finds a letter that his mom wrote, Penny, apparently to Thomas Wayne, that she either did deliver or it got returned to her because she got the wrong address or they just refused to accept the mail, in which she admits in a very long written letter that Arthur's Thomas Wayne's son. So he's not freaked out by it, but he's like, what? How am I finding this out just now? So when he goes to ask her about it, she takes it as he's confronting her about it. She gets hysterical, locks herself in a bedroom or a bathroom, whatever the case was. He's got to insist that he's not upset. He just wants clarification, and he has a right to have that clarified for him. But then he decides just to take it upon himself to hit up the fucking mansion himself, Wayne Manor, basically, to get the truth or get some clarification of what might be the truth, might be a lie at this point, because we can tell now by just Penny and her antics that she's like, not trustworthy whatsoever. Not saying we can't trust a woman, but, with her things going on, we can't really take her as a valid source of anything. So he hits up the mansion. He's outside the manor. He puts on his best, at least magic performance yet, as a clown or as a magician, whatever the fuck he's, profiling himself as, for who turns out to be a very young Bruce Wayne, which caught me off guard, and I'm sure everybody else too, when they first watched this, because, wait a second, if he's Joker, how are we dealing with like a barely even teenaged Bruce Wayne at all? Is he Joker or is he not? We'll get to that later on. But he's putting on a magic show at the very front gate of the manor for a young-ass Bruce Wayne, which involves a lot of magic, what do you call those, magic wands kind of thing, turns into flowers, gives it to him. Which I'm not saying there's anything wrong, it's a movie, of course, but if Arthur really didn't want to come off as creepy, I don't think touching a fucking child that ain't your own and grabbing his, inner, grabbing him from the cheeks and forcing him to smile with your bare, dirty-ass fucking hands is any way to endear yourself with the child and or anybody else, the parent of the child. That was a little weird. But then it does flesh out the detail of what Arthur is, at the end of the day. He's a weirdo. But forces Bruce to smile. Alfred comes running out like, hey, what's going on out here, kind of thing, right? Because this strange man's got his hands through the gate and touching a child that's not his. But in his mind, in the back of his mind at least, Bruce might be his brother. So that's just really what it is. He's being overly affectionate with somebody he just met. Alfred comes out. He's like, what the fuck you doing here? Who are you? Why are you touching a kid that ain't yours, basically? And he's like, oh, I came here to talk to Thomas Wayne because I know about him and my mother, Penny Fleck. Alfred does immediately recognize the name. Now it's where it's up for interpretation, I guess you could say, because Alfred gives all the vibes of, I know that name, and immediately he tenses up. Like there's something to cover up about Penny Fleck, which She was there. He does acknowledge that part. She used to work there, but that she was crazy. She was bipolar. And he says there's nothing to talk about because nothing went on between her and, my boss, Thomas Wayne. Besides the fact that she was crazy and she was let go of because, she couldn't be trusted as a crazy person. And he keeps, piling on to like crazy, bipolar, this, that, the other. Arthur gets upset and starts grabbing him through the fucking gate and starts choking him. And he only lets go of Alfred, which it seems like it probably would have killed him by choking him through the fence, when he sees that Bruce is like worried and like, about to cry and shit. So he takes off running afterwards. This fucking Arthur guy, he can run like a motherfucker. If anything, failed comedian, he could have been a marathon runner. That boy can fucking run and just keep running. Forget it. They're never catching up to him. Once he gets back home, though, mom's getting loaded into the ambulance. We don't know why as of yet. He gets in the back of the ambulance. She gets taken to the hospital. He's sitting outside taking a smoke break. In his mind, of course, at his mom's bedside is him and Zazie. But she's like, I'm going to go grab something to eat. So he takes a smoke break. He's outside. He gets approached by the two detectives who were actually talking to mom before he got home and who apparently triggered her hysterical state that she was in, causing her to like collapse and have a stroke as he was informed. And he's upset with them. Basically one of those two detectives, the kind of cops that, smart asses, hard asses all the times, shout out to the police, of course. I'm not saying they're all like that, but the kind we're talking about, old, disgruntled and just, they don't hate their job, but they hate the people they got to deal with on a daily basis. Why do your job then in that case? But I'm just saying, they're being dicks to him. They're kind of not being so much dicks, but being smart asses. They're trying to ask him about the subway murders, which coincides with him being fired for bringing a gun to a kid's hospital, which, doesn't really mean he's necessarily the killer or the murderer, but, better safe than sorry. Oh, this guy used to be a clown part-time carrying guns to kid hospitals. Maybe, just maybe, he might have been the guy that killed the guys on the subway. Who knows? But it was funny because he's smoking, he's done talking to them. He takes his cigarette and flicks it, walking off trying to be cool, but he walks face first to an exit door, which won't open till one of the guys says, hey, that's an exit door. You can only fucking leave from there, not walk back in. So that was a little funny touch. They got a lot of little subtle jokes, sprinkled throughout the movie itself. All right, so from there we cut to Arthur at his mom's bedside in the hospital, and the Murray Franklin show happens to come on. And of course he's a fan. He's envisioned him as a father figure, as somebody he could really get along with and gel with. Turns out this episode is featuring his clip of him doing stand-up, which turned out to be real, but the reality was that he bombed. And he made no jokes. He was just doing like observations from his notebook, pretty much, that he thought were funny or would have landed somewhere with somebody. And of course, Murray takes advantage of that shit, takes little jabs at him, makes fun of him, and makes a reference of where we first get the, Arthur called Joker. Look at this Joker as he presents the clip. And it's terrible. So it turns out that part was real, but the rest of it where he cleaned up his act and like actually made the rest of the audience laugh was all in his head, as well as Zazie being in the audience. He gets mad at that, of course, and he makes it in time to catch the newscast that night and sees people protesting and dressed up as clowns. So that at least lightens his mood, seeing that, okay, people are seeing the clown, that he played as something cool, something to like embody, something to want to be like, which again, he just wanted to be accepted. That leads to him sneaking into a theater where Thomas Wayne, during that same newscast, announced he was going to be there. What was it for, like a screening of some Charlie Chaplin movie? I forget which one exactly. But he sneaks in there. He dresses up as an usher and makes his way into the bathroom when he sees Thomas Wayne make his way to the bathroom. To confront him, not confront him, but just like talk to him finally. There's a chance to talk to who he thinks might be his daddy. He does talk to him while he's like pissing at the urinal, like, what can I do for your pal, kind of thing, right? They start talking, and Wayne basically tells him, okay, I know who your mother is, but your mother was crazy. We had to let her go. And as far as I know, she adopted your ass. You're not my kid. I have one kid, which is just Bruce Wayne, which, you, by the way, you fucking creep, you put your hands in his mouth and made him smile. So I should probably have you arrested, but goddamn it, I'm more worried about you harassing me while I'm in the bathroom more than you are about touching my kid, literally, in the face at least. Artie gets upset about everything going on, deflecting and calling his mom crazy, and starts laughing, which is his condition. Wayne takes that as him laughing at the situation or having touched his kid like that, punches him in the face and says he'll fucking kill him if he ever approaches the manor again, and he'll leave him alone, which fucks with Arthur's mind so much that he goes back home again and strips down to his underwear and throws everything out of the fridge and locks himself into the fridge, which apparently I read, out of curiosity, was apparently a way that a lot of children were accidentally dying back in the 50s, and they had to put like some sort of warning or some shit that comes with fridges all the time now, which when I look at the fridge, at least the ones nowadays, I don't know if you could fit a whole, like an adult at least. But then again, Arthur / Joaquin Phoenix is so skinny in the fucking thing, he might as well have fit. Oddly, he does. But maybe, I don't know, maybe one of those prop fridges where they have like a hole dug in the back where he can actually fit and like go into another room and take a cigarette break or something. I don't know. But apparently that was a thing back in the 50s. Who knows? Then he wakes up the following morning and gets a call from the Murray Franklin Show producer, a nice little lady on the phone, saying that Murray wants him as a special guest because there was such an overwhelmingly positive audience reaction to the clip that Murray shared at Arthur's expense, making him look like a fool. So he's going to get brought in as a special guest. He goes back to the hospital. Sorry, not the hospital where his mom's at, but he goes back to Arkham Asylum, I think it was. I forget what they hinted that as being, but it was it Gotham General? I forget. I should have made a note of that, but something Arkham, something Gotham, but basically like a loony bin. So he goes to the record room where they have her records on file, Penny, to confirm what the deal is. Am I adopted? Am I legit her kid? Is Thomas Wayne my dad? Etc., etc., right? So it turns out that the guy brings back the records, confirms that she was committed, that, reads off her diagnosis, and confirms that a part of the issue was that she was basically letting him, growing up as a kid, get abused physically by her already abusive boyfriend. So she was getting beat up, left for dead pretty much, and then chaining him up to radiators and beating the shit out of him. So he has a whole issue, brief little scuffle with the guy holding the records through like a little like bulletproof thing. He yoinks it from him. He takes off running. He runs down a hallway through some stairs, reads through the records, and starts, really getting into the laugh again, but this time through like a lot of pain because, again, laughing is his condition. So as he confirms that he was adopted, confirms that he was getting beat up, he was found chained to a radiator with like severe head trauma and shit. And then we cut back to the hospital where he goes to see his mom sit at her bedside, but this time really pissed off at her because of all the lies he's told her throughout his whole life, where she would nickname him Happy, saying he was such a happy little boy growing up when he really wasn't. He was getting abused, he was malnourished, he was being neglected, he was, getting beat up by random strangers that she was fucking at the moment, and apparently making up this whole relationship in her mind with Thomas Wayne that never really happened, apparently. I get the feeling the way that Thomas and Alfred immediately reacted upon hearing her name. Sure, she might have just been like a fucking nut job that got hired because she was, when they flash back to a younger version of her, she was kind of cute. Why not hire her as part of the staff? Something might have happened, but something might have not happened. Or something didn't happen, but she was just like enough of a headache, enough of a hassle, pain in the ass, where they remember, oh yeah, the crazy bitch that fucking, worked there for like 2 weeks and just we had to like dismiss her and get her committed to a loony bin kind of thing. Or it could have been that maybe Thomas did fuck Penny Fleck, and this interpretation of Joker's origins, Arthur might have been his kid after all, but he's just like immediately denied it because he's got power and influence and pretty much runs the city without being the mayor already. Might have been like, okay, we're gonna make her seem crazy, doctor write up a diagnosis that makes her seem like she's got multiple personalities and this and that and the other. make him some fake ass adoption papers and make sure the son that I had with her never comes back to bite me in the ass or the dick, where he came from initially. But we make it seem like he was adopted. Not my kid whatsoever. He's absolutely not Arthur fucking Wayne or nothing like that. Or, as they were implying, Batman's brother, basically. Well, much older brother, basically, at this point. So, when he kills her, before he does, he goes into a whole speech about, he hated that nickname. It was always, false shit, fake shit, phony shit. I used to think my life was a tragedy, but now I realize it's a fucking comedy for, how dark and bleak he had it growing up, and puts the pillow on her face and kills her, suffocates her to death, basically. And now he realizes what he has to do once he makes it onto Murray's show is kill himself in front of a live audience, because it seems like at that point he was content enough with doing that to Mom, which had been the source of a lot of his misery. But it seems like he had nothing else to live. At that moment, at least, he determined he had nothing else to live for. So why not just off himself again in front of his hero Murray, who had pretty much shitted on him at that point, and a viewing audience, so they, they could be traumatized if, due to the fact that he was traumatized his whole life. Dyes his hair green. He's dancing along to the music going on, well, for real in the apartment, not in his head. Paints his face white. He's about to get ready to go fucking later on that night. Then he gets a buzz at the door. Grab some scissors, I guess knowing already what may or may not happen, or just in case, like his safety pair of scissors. And then that part comes up, which you most likely YouTubed, or you found on YouTube like I did after the fact, even though I'd already watched the movie. But I seen a lot of people enjoy that part particularly, or find it funny at the very end, because it does have a nice little joke at the very end to end it off. A very bloody scene otherwise. Grabs the scissors, answers the door. It's fucking Randall and Gary. So this little, as they refer to him as in the movie, I'm doing so as well. I'm abusing my privilege, a midget, or a small person, as they're called, I think, politically correctly nowadays. Whatever. It's Randall, the big-ass fat fuck, balled in and gave him the gun for free, just to pin it on him afterwards. And then Gary, the short person, has always been nice to Arthur. Because, again, being a short person, imagine being 4 foot nothing and being a total dickhead. And on top of that, a clown for hire. So, I think he knows where he can push, push people's buttons enough. But I digress. So they come in. Randall's really there just to see what's going on with Arthur. The police have been asking around at work, what's going on. Do they know anything about Arthur? He wants to check in with Arthur to see what Arthur had said about him by any odd chance. But of course, it's bullshit. No, how's it going? We brought you a bottle. We miss you at work. But by the way, did you snitch on me? Did you tell him, where you got the gun by any chance? Did you mention my name whatsoever, kind of thing? Arthur can see through it. Gary's genuinely there, concerned about him, trying to check in on the friend and seeing how he's doing and everything. Arthur proceeds to grab the scissors from his back pocket and then really deeply stabs Randall, because he's fat, so he's got a lot of fat to break the skin through, right? Jabs him in the neck, pulls out, jabs him in the eye, pulls out. No, he left the scissors in the eye. So he's already just splurting blood from the neck and the eye, right? Just takes his big fat watermelon-sized head and starts bashing him into the fucking wall. I lost count how many times. Gary, his small little ass, is freaking out in the background. Oh my God, Arthur, please stop. What are you doing, Arthur? He does a beautiful job of acting hysterical and just shrieking and crying out loud. So shout outs to him. I forget his name in real life. I follow him on Instagram. He's cool. Good guy. I wouldn't say he stole the show, because it's still Joaquin Phoenix as the one man, gang in that sense of acting. But he really did his part, the guy playing Gary. He's freaking out as the guy's getting bashed in the head to death against a wall. He's dead already, too. He makes fun of Gary because he's got a British accent. He says, I'm going to be on the telly later. Imagine me on the telly with Murray Franklin, right, afterwards. But he basically lets him go because, Gary, you're the only one that was ever nice to me at work. I wouldn't do a thing to you. He does play around with him. Gary's in the corner. He's just get out of here. Don't worry about it. I'm going to kill him, not you, kind of thing. And when Gary passes him by, he reaches out I'm going to get you, motherfucker. Gary's hysterical. He runs towards the front door. And then the best gag, and I think genuinely probably the best laugh I remember in the theater. Not that the movie before that part wasn't funny already. It has little spots where it was funny and shit amongst the darkness and the bleakness of it all, and the blood, of course. The legit pop that the crowd had at this part was when Gary makes it to the front door, and because, again, he's a short person, or small person, whatever you fucking call it. A midget, just to be safe. Clarification. He can't reach the lock on the front door. He's jumping on his fucking tiptoes and shit to try to reach it. He's scared out of his mind. He looks back at Arthur, who was like slumped in a corner, just like kind of taking in the moment of the fucking glory of the violence and the blood he's drenched in. He's like, Arthur, I can't reach the door. Arthur gets up. He's like, oh yeah, whoops, sorry about that. Forgot you're fucking half my size, you little nitwit. He goes and unlocks the door for him, kisses him on the forehead, says, you were the only one that was ever nice to me. You know, just go. Don't be afraid. I'm not going to ever come after you. You're good. Lets him out the door. And then we get that other part that you definitely looked up on YouTube. As I remember, too, that same day of, that day after, was immediately shared in a lot of people's Instagram stories and broken up into pieces, because if you posted it as its own little clip, like I found out firsthand, immediately copyright, take it down. We muted it all over the fucking world and said Zimbabwe or something like that, so no one's gonna fucking watch it or even get to listen to it, better yet said. But that part that you fucking looked up because it made sense and it was done so well and it gelled perfectly. The song, the scene, the choreography, which is very bad, but bless his heart, Joaquin Phoenix. He proved himself being able to dance in Joker 2 when we get to that review eventually. But Gary Glitter, Rock and Roll Part 1 and 2 is a song that plays as he makes his way down the elevator in full Joker suit and makeup and green hair dyed, dancing his way down the random set of stairs in the fucking Bronx. Not so random right now, because apparently they've become a landmark ever since. People during fucking COVID, ever since then too, a yearly tradition now. I don't know if necessarily on the release anniversary of the film and or for Halloween, people still dress up as that version of Joker and still do the fucking dance down the stairs, which is super fucking cringe. On top of that, it's the Bronx. It makes you wish, it would be like 90s Bronx, where you probably get shot just for fucking breathing in the Bronx direction, right? But we get that song, the dance down the stairs, and the whole thing, I knew that song before. I've heard it before. I just didn't know the title, because then after the movie, I was curious enough to look up, okay, the name of the artist, the song title and shit. Okay, great. Then you do a little more research like I did afterwards, and then you realize, holy shit, this was like a British R. Kelly like years before. R. Kelly even got into the trouble he did. There's that controversy associated with the song. It's kind of like one of those cases, can you separate the artist from the art? Because the song is great. I still love that song. I still go to that song as a guilty pleasure. Can't help it, especially when you watch Joker. It's there. You can't escape it, right? But then apparently Gary Glitter, the problem was he was apparently, or he is, since he went to prison for it, he was a pedophile. So he liked the little girls a lot. From the 70s, throughout the 80s, and throughout now, where he's still in prison. And as of 2024, he was actually denied parole in Britain or England, whatever you call it over there. But he's over there for touching kids, basically. So that's why the song's reputation is kind of tainted along with his fame. But at least you can be like, well, I like the song. I don't like the guy that made the song or that touched the kids. Proof him being in prison for that shit. At the end of the dance, as he's so rudely interrupted while he's dancing his way down those stairs in the Bronx, he gets yelled at by the two detectives who still haven't been able to pin him down or get him to answer any questions about the subway murders. Tweedledee Tweedledum, fat fucking dumbass. They chase him down the stairs. They chase him all throughout the fucking Bronx as it was shot in. Arthur's getting run over by fucking cars. He's rolling off the roof of the hoods because he's so skinny. Like, I guess there's really nothing to break, or he's like so light that the impact was lessened by the car hitting him full on. He just rolled off, keeps running, runs up to the train station, to the O train, as is dubbed in the movie. So whichever train that was up in the Bronx, I'm assuming maybe like either the 4, the 5, or the 6. It looks like he gets on that train. The train is full of people in clown masks, similar enough to Arthur and his makeup. So he's able to blend into the crowd. But the cops also make their way into the train, stop the fucking train. We got to get on the shit they do. It almost looks like they're able to spot Arthur the whole time he's making his way through the crowd. But it does get tougher because the train is moving. There's a ton of people and shit. Arthur's clever enough to fucking snatch a mask off of somebody who pushes him into somebody else. And that somebody else didn't realize it was Arthur and just fucking hooks off on the other guy that got his mask yanked off him. They're fighting in the fucking train. So that creates a whole melee. The cops are fucking lost. They can't, figure out who's Arthur anymore because, again, he's wearing that fake mask now. So then one of the protesters on their way to the protest, going downtown, grabs onto one of the cops. The cop, I guess, got scared for his life or whatever and pulls out his piece and right in the fucking guts. The crowd goes silent. Then they fucking just start jumping both of them. Train stops. They throw him out the fucking door and they just start fucking just gang wars on both of them, which neither of them died, as we find out later on. They just got almost beat to death, but in stable condition, as they reveal afterwards. And at that point, Arthur's able to fucking go as calmly as can be to show up at fucking the Murray Franklin show. So now we get Mark Maron, shouts to Mark Maron, with his guest spot in the movie. So that was pretty cool, actually. Sam Morrill, we don't get to see him, we only hear Sam. I think we get a brief little glimpse of Sam Morrill when he did his bit about the parking shit. How women see cars versus how guys see cars and parking and shit, right? Now we got Mark Maron, as we're speaking of right now, which, he just ended his fucking podcast after so long because he was overwhelmed, overworked. And then, like I mentioned earlier, too, Brian Callen, who got his little fucking, digs in on Arthur. But I wish we got a little more. Maybe there's like a cut, deleted scene. I don't know. But again, I like Brian Callen, so that's why I would look forward to more of Brian Callen. But we didn't get that. Now we get Mark Maron, who plays Mark Maron perfectly under another name. I forget the name they gave him. But he's being an absolute dick to Arthur. Meanwhile, Murray is being somewhat genuinely nice enough to Arthur. Be like, oh, yeah, you're the kid from the fucking clip that went viral. You bombed at the fucking club. Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you, da-da-da, whatever. So because he's in the makeup, Mark Maron, the producer, is like, oh, tell him to take the fucking makeup off because he's being a dickhead. He's, sympathizing with the protesters that are dressing up as clowns to protest Thomas Wayne and Gotham and City Hall and shit. Murray's like, no, let him keep it on because it'll be good for ratings. It'll be good for discussion and shit, which he's right. It might as well be. And Arthur comes off as cool, calm, collected. He's all for it and shit. But then he taps Murray to be like, hey, before you bring me out, can you introduce me instead of Arthur as Joker? And he's like, why Joker? But he's like, because that's what you called me when you fucking played my clip. You called me a Joker. So I think it only fits that you call me and introduce me as Joker when I come out there. It's like, sure, no fucking problem, whatever. Okay, they do that. He comes out, he does a little fucking dance while he's smoking his cig. He kisses the female sex expert on the panel as well. He's able to sit down. Immediately they're making fun of him for being so awkward and, like, I guess caught up in the moment and shit, not being able to do nothing like that on his own besides go to his joke book, tell a knock-knock joke, which is purposely dark. What do you say? Knock, knock, who's there? This is the policeman. Your kid's been run over and left for dead on the road, something like that, like really cringe and purposely dark on purpose and bleak. And that leads into him confessing to killing the guys on the train, the subway murderer. So Murray's like, oh, that's a terrible joke to tell. Why would you say something like that? And he's like, I'm not joking. I really fucking did it. And goes into his whole thing about, oh, well, everybody's crying over them just because they were white, entitled, financial bros. But had it been me laying down on the fucking sidewalk dying with my guts leaking out, you would have just walked all over me and ignored me because I'm a regular fucking schmegular citizen of Gotham and shit, right? Goes into his whole thing. I'm sure you Googled or YouTube that part too. Goes into the part about, well, you expect us to just be good little boys and never expect us to werewolf or fucking, overthrow the fucking people on top of the food chain here, the rich in Gotham, Thomas Wayne like motherfuckers, you motherfucker Murray. Oh, how am I bad? How am I a motherfucker? Well, you made fun of me. You played that clip on purpose, making fun of me and my expense and shit. I looked at you like a hero and shit. And then basically you get what you fucking deserve. And instead of wanting to kill himself, which he originally planned when he was like playing out the scenario in his head in the apartment, he was going to off himself on the show. No, instead he turns the table, I guess because Murray got him fed up enough, and he just blasts him in the fucking face, gets up, walks around a little bit, just blasts him in the chest a couple of times. They cut the feed. That results in the city, Gotham, of course, turning into just chaos. Everything is on fire. Everything's getting stolen, broken into, burglarized, all that shit. The rich are in fear. They're panicking. You can see at the theater, the Waynes, Bruce, Thomas, and Martha, happen to be walking out the theater all together and, scared and like fearing for their lives. Thomas has the bright idea to go down an alley to escape the bedlam, which I think in every other version of the story being told, they happened to go down an alley anyway, but they were just like, I don't know, just trying to cut through streets instead of like escaping all the pandemonium going on around them. In that alley, of course, we get out every time there's a Batman origin tale. We have to get it, of course, done over and over again. It's like we don't know the story already. It's in comic format. It's in animated format. It's in fucking big screen format. They got to off Thomas and Martha. You got what you fucking deserve, Wayne. Blast him in the fucking guts. The guy approaches Martha, yoinks her fucking pearl necklace off her, blasts her guts open. Why not kill the kid at that point? I'm just saying. I'm not endorsing, doing that to kids either, but might as well just make it a trifecta, leave no fucking witnesses, but I guess that guy didn't think it through enough. Okay, Bruce is left with no parents again. For the millionth time we've had to fucking witness it and sit through it, right? Meanwhile, Joker's being hauled off in a cop car in the back. The cops are like, you fucking asshole, look what you did to the city, this is all your fault. And he's like, yeah, isn't it beautiful? Right before an ambulance crashes into the back of the cop car, flips that shit over, with the intent of, these Joker enthusiasts are there to free him. They knew that was a cop car he was in. They get him out of there. They put him on top. He's dancing all around like an idol. No, he's not dancing, but he embraces the moment. He takes the blood from his mouth. He makes the Joker smile from cheek to cheek, turns around, embraces the crowd and shit. While the pandemonium and shit's happening around him, they cut back to Bruce in Crime Alley, with his dead parents just laying there. He's like, he doesn't know what to do with himself, basically. Cut back to Joker celebrating and just basking in the limelight. And then we cut the Joker cuffed up in all white in the asylum with a brand new fucking, social worker, whoever they assigned to him, to his case, to talk to him, to get him to talk, to confess to shit and everything. He can't help but laugh. It's his condition. He's doing so. She's like, oh, what's so funny? He's like, oh, I just thought of a joke. She's like, why don't you tell me? He's like, you wouldn't get it, kind of thing. So it makes you think, is he imagining what follows right after? Is it real or not? Because then it cuts to him walking out the room in all white, a white hallway as well, but with bloody footprints. So it's implied that even though he was handcuffed and left the room in a padded cell, I'm guessing under supervision with the social worker, he ended up killing her anyway. And at the very end, it's a very comedic scene because he walks down a long hallway. He walks one way, then he's running away from the guards as they're giving him chase, kind of like a cartoon-esque style chase. Going down that end of the hallway, then back this way, this hallway, whatever. It was pretty funny. So, in a very large nutshell, forgive me in advance, of course, but I like this movie a lot, so I just wanted to kind of deep dive into it, per se. That's Joker from 2019. Now, as far as a final score, I'm going to do a new thing here where I've changed the system as far as scores are concerned. And thank you if you made it to this point as well. I really appreciate it. I'm changing things up because I used to do basically thumbnail faces and or reactions and shit that made sense to me, but I don't know. I want to have fun with it too, though. I don't want to be like a stickler like that. So we're going to reinvent the scoring system, or we're going to make it out of a possible 69. Wink, wink. What score would I give Joker from 2019, directed by Todd Phillips, starring Joaquin Phoenix and a whole bunch of other people that did their part very well in the movie? I like this movie a lot, so out of the perfect number to give a score to, 69 total. That's the peak. That's the highest you can go on a scale here of who this been watching. In all honesty, out of a possible 69, I'm gonna go with a 50. 5-0 for Joker from 2019. Is it the best movie ever? Of course not. Is it one of the go-to movies I go back to more often than I probably should? Yes, but not because I'm like so like beaten off to the violence and all the blood and shit. No, it's not even on that scale, but it's like I love the way it was shot. I love so many of the scenes, how they look visually. I love Joaquin Phoenix. He's great. There's a lot of shit to actually enjoy in this shit. So long as you don't misinterpret or misconstrue the message, which there really isn't one. It's just a story being told. But unfortunately, again, as I'm sure Todd Phillips was miserable about, maybe Joaquin too, a lot of those that saw this took this as an excuse to like werewolf per se. And thank goodness nothing major's come of it. But you can see why a lot of certain individuals would take this as like, oh, you know what? I'm being validated in what I've got going on in my head, what I feel like doing eventually at some point. We're not here to get serious like that, but you know what I mean. It sucks that that happened. It sucks that that happened also with The Dark Knight Rises, or The Dark Knight, which led into The Dark Knight Rises, where the events occurred way back when, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm going to give it a 50 out of 69. Well shot, well produced, 2 hours, but 2 hours well invested. I didn't feel it like that, pause. I didn't feel like it was 2 hours, better yet said. It felt like it kind of went at a very good pace and beat. And I'm never bored watching this movie. I thoroughly enjoy it. And of course, a lot of guilty pleasures. You know, you got Joaquin Phoenix in a show-stealing performance. You've got subtle little jokes to break up the darker or bleaker moments at the very end. Very subtle, but very well placed. You got Zazie Beetz on top of all co-starring leading females you could have asked for. Wonderful choice. They're all about diversity. Todd Phillips and his company that made Joker to begin with. I'm kidding, of course, but you know what I mean. But overall, I'd highly recommend it. We will talk about Joker 2. We're not going to leave that behind at all, but at a later time, and hopefully to coincide with the release of 6 years later, Joker 2019, reviewed by me just now. Who This, host of Who This been watching, again, at Who This Is One for the YouTube and or Twitch. For whenever I do the live stream thing with certain games, I'm getting back into the live stream thing, of course, but also at Who This Is One on the socials to catch me there, to, you know, show any support. Of course, the comment section is open on Spotify and or YouTube. Feel free to use that. You agree with what I said? You disagree? Did I miss something that you might have picked up on in the movie itself? Please feel free to let me know. Please feel free to drop that in there and talk your talk. You know, it's not like my opinion is the end all be all. You're free to fucking say what you want. You know, just don't be too crazy or rude about it. Then we can have a discussion that way. We're still able to have a discussion, I would think still. So why not have one in the comments? Any feedback, share. I appreciate it. Whatever you got to do with it. I'll catch you next time.
I saw this coming, and my God, I jumped on it with both hands and been holding on.
My ass! My ass!
When I think of asses, woman's ass, something comes out of me.
I don't eat ice, I kick ice! You stupid ice!
You cannot give up yet. You did not let me or my fat ass down, okay?
Yo, it's over. All right, it's over. It's over. Move the mic. Move the mic.
Thank you!
All right.